Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be taking a look at our reoccurring weekly segment entitled, What the Hell's Going On with the Police State? As always, I have way too many stories and way too little time, so let's get going. New Jersey chief charged, suspended over alleged police escorts at funeral home he owns, state says. Not gonna lie, at first glance, I thought this was about a completely different story. A veteran Bergen County police chief and candidate for sheriff was charged with official misconduct for allegedly ordering officers under his command to provide escorts while on duty for the funeral home that he owns. Saddlebrook Police Chief Robert Kugler, who owns Kugler Funeral Home, was also charged with conspiracy and corruption of public resources, according to the State Attorney General's office. Quote, police officers allegedly conducted escorts ordered by Kugler during their regular shifts, and they escorted funeral processions to cemeteries both within and outside of Saddlebrook. Kugler Funeral Home did not reimburse the township of Saddlebrook for the escorts. Now, just a few quick notes here. Number one, while this might seem low-key and fairly not so criminal, I'd like to remind you that these are the kind of crimes that develop the overall mentality and attitude of the police, which is one of them being their own protected class, only answerable to each other and not their communities. And this is why you see so many of these stories, you just kind of shrug them off because they're so commonplace. Point number two, I'm fairly sure they only went after him because he didn't reimburse the township. If no palms get greased, well then it's a crime. If multiple people are in on it, then it's just a cool way to help each other out. Because that's the state of policing in America. Continuing down the list, Bethel's mayor drops campaign to fire police chief over BLM protests and other issues. The mayor of Bethel, Ohio, dropped his campaign to fire the village police chief Monday after arguing for more than a month he was unfit for the job. In a memo to police chief Steve Teague, Mayor Jay Noble said he was withdrawing the administrative charges he filed against the chief in early February and would instead issue him a written reprimand. Yeah, here's how this one went down. Small town in Ohio knows that they're going to have a Black Lives Matter protest. They also know that local Aryan gangs and motorcycle clubs are going to come to counter-protest to beat the shit out of them. The police chief decides, I'm just going to throw a couple cops on duty, let the chips fall where they may, and let these lib turds learn a lesson, and well, shit happened. However, after a month of impotently complaining about it, it looks like the mayor is just going to go slink back into his hole because even the mayor of a town or the city council of a town doesn't have nearly as much power as the chief of police of a town. Why? Because the police state wields the most power. And it doesn't look like that power is going to be checked anytime soon. U.S. Supreme Court rejects case over qualified immunity for police. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday sidestepped a chance to review the scope of a legal defense called qualified immunity that increasingly has been used to shield police accused of excessive force, turning away an appeal by a Cleveland man who sued after being roughed up by police while trying to enter his own home. Now, one of the larger problems with trying to change the culture of the police state here in America is that they have virtual immunity. They're almost never criminally prosecuted, and they can almost never be civilly prosecuted. So there's no onus upon them to change their behavior, to stop killing people's dogs, to stop strangling unarmed black people, to stop going willy-nilly and committing crimes. The justices declined to hear the appeal by Chase House, who said he was slammed to the ground outside the house where he lived with his mother in a poor and mostly black neighborhood, struck in the back of the head, and jailed after police deemed his actions suspicious. House, who was 20 at the time, is black. The police involved in the 2016 incident are white. Again, virtually no accountability. Police get to beat the shit out of and or kill lots of poor people 6 towns over and then go back home for the weekend and sit on their deck by their pool and hang out with their family and kick it and not have a care in the world. Qualified immunity protects police officers and other types of government officials from civil litigation in certain circumstances, allowing lawsuits only when an individual's clearly established statutory or constitutional rights have been violated. For the record, anything in quotes describing the police or the government, you can be sure as shit means good luck proving it. House's case was featured in a Reuters investigation into qualified immunity published in December. The investigation illustrated how the endorsement of this defense by courts had denied Black Americans recourse to justice under a law enacted 150 years ago, specifically to protect them from the abuses by state and local authorities in the post-Civil War years. Your historical reminder that the police started as a slave-catching service, and slaves were property, which is why, even today, police promise to uphold the Constitution and protect private property, because that is their job. They take the property that runs away from its owner and brings it back to them. It's literally why the entire fucking profession was started in the first place. And even today, all these years later, there's almost no time where you can sue an officer for his actions, no matter how criminal or liable they may be. Why? Because the state will always protect its own before it protects anybody else. Family questions why son was stunned and pepper sprayed by police in Tennessee traffic stop. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, family, but you're never going to get any answers. That's how it goes. Video captured the end of a traffic stop in Brownsville, Tennessee on Sunday morning as Isaiah White was arrested. Police pulled him over. Quote, "I'm not going to lie, I got out and I ran. I was in the wrong for that. Once I actually stopped and I surrendered to them, they tased me twice while I was on the ground." White says he was pepper sprayed too, after he was in handcuffs. His mother witnessed the arrest. She's upset and questioning the officer's use of force. Yes, here's where the cop apologists will come crawling out of the woodwork and say, "Oh, if you don't want to have bad things happen to you, you shouldn't break the law." Yeah, okay, got it. The kid ran while he was running because, again, fight or flight instinct, first thing that happened, flight. He ran. After about 3 seconds of running, he was like, maybe I shouldn't be running. I'm just going to give up. And then he just stopped and knelt down and put his hands in the air. And then they tased him twice, handcuffed him, and pepper sprayed him in the face after he was handcuffed. Was he trying to get away? No. Why did they do it? For retribution. Because this is the mindset of the police state in the United States of America today. If you do not submit to the full authority of the police state will seek retribution upon you in any form it chooses. Black mother pepper sprayed in front of her toddler, police say. Body cam footage from the February 22nd incident shows an officer responding to a shoplifting complaint, confronting a woman who's seen holding a toddler. The woman proceeds to show the officer the inside of her purse, insisting that she didn't steal anything. The video shows the officer asking the woman to wait with him, but she runs away with the child in her arms. The officer then chases her down the street and tackles her in a parking lot and restrains her. Because of course that's what the cops do. When they get a call and somebody says, hey, this person might have shoplifted something from a store, the police come down and tackle you while you're carrying a 3-year-old child because fuck that kid. The department has been under fire since the death of Daniel Prude last year, a black man who was having a mental health crisis. Rochester police officers handcuffed him and covered his head with a spit sock after he spat on officers, according to the body cam footage. Of course, CNN being CNN decides to leave out the fact that they then knelt on him and pushed his head that was already in a cloth bag down into the fucking frozen ground. That's why he ended up dying. In another encounter on January 29th, body camera footage showed Rochester officers handcuffing and pepper spraying a 9-year-old child while responding to what police said was a report of family trouble. Another incident occurred in May 2020 when a 10-year-old girl was handcuffed during a traffic stop. Yes, this is a pattern of behavior. And yes, this pattern of behavior is going to remain 100% unchanged. Why? Because every single time this happens, the police come out and say, we're going to investigate ourselves. And magically they find they've done nothing wrong. Or if they have, it's something very small. And they're going to require all their officers to watch a training video one day. A Michigan state trooper is facing a felony assault charge after unleashing a trained police dog onto an unarmed man for 4 minutes. Parker Serbrook was charged on March 5th for felonious assault with a dangerous weapon and pled not guilty to the charge. Serbrook, 33, joined the Michigan State Police in 2012 and has 3 years of experience as a canine handler. According to an MSP incident report, Serbrook stopped a vehicle leaving an illegal activities spot. It's anywhere the black people live. When the driver crashed into a tree before exiting the car and falling onto the ground. Video of the incident released by MSP shows that Serbrook arrived at the scene soon after and unleashed the police dog onto the unidentified and unarmed man laying on the ground with a stop him command. The dog is seen biting and tugging on the man, who can be heard repeatedly screaming, "I'm done," and "He's got me," for nearly 4 minutes. The video shows the dog repeatedly biting and attacking the driver, who does not appear to resist or fight back. At one point, the man can be heard crying out as the canine began to attack his face, but the officer didn't call off the dog and instead is heard chastising the man. If you don't do as the police state says, whenever it says to do it, you will immediately be punished harshly. "Please, sir, he's on my face," the man can be heard screaming. "I don't care," Serbrook responded. The MSP opened an internal investigation just weeks after the incident occurred. Investigators interviewed the man attacked by the dog, who said the dog bit him on his private parts, pelvic area, head, and pulled and shook him by his arm. FYI, highly trained police dogs don't go out of their way to bite somebody's dick off unless the cop assigned to handle him trains the dog to bite somebody's dick off. Now, as absolutely horrific as all of this is, I am now going to give you one ray of hope. Denver is sending mental health experts instead of cops in response to nonviolent calls. Now, for years, I have often glibly commented that people should never call the police or 911 for any circumstance, because even if you don't call the police but you call 911, the police are going to show up anyway because, hey, maybe there will be a chance to shoot somebody. But Denver, which is literally rolling over in cash thanks to its legal cannabis program that's doing $1 billion a year in sales and creating so much tax revenue the state is a surplus and got to invest in school programs and community service programs, about 6 months ago, they started sending out crisis response teams that don't have cops when people call up about things that are happening that aren't directly related to an imminent threat of violence. A recent program out of Denver, Colorado has found that having unarmed mental health professionals respond to matters that don't threaten public safety can be even more effective than armed officers. Literally anything is more effective than armed officers. Last year, Denver's new Support Team Assistance Response Program hit the streets. The STAR program builds off of Denver's co-responder program that paired mental health professionals with armed police officers starting back in 2016. Since its launch, it has responded to more than 350 911 calls, often connected to unmet mental or physical needs. The team has responded to unhoused people in distress, people having suicidal ideation, indecent exposure, trespassers, and people simply acting strangely. Again, it has been stated time and time again, police are trained to be hammers. And when you are a hammer, you look at every single problem like it's a nail, because you only know one way to do one thing, and that's hammer on shit until the problem stops moving. So there you go. There's another rousing rendition of what the hell's going on with the police state. While a lot of this news just sounds like the same batch of stories constantly repeated every single week ad nauseum, it is good to see there is at least a faint glimmer of hope coming out of the program in Denver. Maybe, just maybe, if we try to implement more systems like this, there will be less opportunity for the police to kill us just because we're having a bad day. Until next time, my name is James. I am from the internet and I'm out. Peace.